Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought, which they seldom use. The tyrant dies, and his rule is over. The martyr dies, and his rule begins. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose oneself. And to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of oneself. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry past it. What labels me negates me. What is a poet? An unhappy man who hides deep anguish in his heart, but whose lips are so formed that when the sigh and cry pass through them, it sounds like lovely music. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful. He makes saints out of sinners. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. Leap of faith, yes, but only after reflection. For he who loves God without faith reflects on himself, while the person who loves God in faith reflects on God. Happiness is the greatest hiding place for despair. On the secretly blushing cheek is reflected the glow of the heart. What is youth? A dream. What is love? The dream's content. Take away paradox from the thinker, and you have a professor. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. The proud person always wants to do the right thing, the great thing, but because he wants to do it in his own strength, he is fighting not with man, but with God. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. It is impossible to exist without passion. There is nothing with which every man is so afraid as getting to know how enormously much he is capable of doing and becoming. It is the duty of the human understanding to understand that there are things which it cannot understand. Whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the ultimate. I stick my finger into existence, and it smells of nothing. People settle for a level of despair they can tolerate and call it happiness. This, then, is the ultimate paradox of thought, to want to discover something that thought itself cannot think. It's better to get lost in the passion than to lose the passion. I opened my eyes and saw the real world, and I began to laugh, and I haven't stopped since. A man who is a physical being is always turned toward the outside, thinking that his happiness lies outside him, finally turns inward and discovers that the source is within him. It is a frightful satire and an epigram on the modern age that the only use it knows for solitude is to make it a punishment, a jail sentence. People understand me so little that they do not even understand when I complain of being misunderstood. Silence is the demon's trap, and the more one is silenced, the more terrible the demon. But silence is also the divinity's mutual understanding with the single individual. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. Life has its own hidden forces which you can only discover by living. I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations. One can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it. You will regret both. The greatest hazard of all, losing one's self, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. No other loss can occur so quietly, any other loss. An arm, a leg, $5, a wife, etc., is sure to be noticed. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. I begin with the principle that all men are bores. Surely no one will prove himself so great a bore as to contradict me in this. I would rather be a swineherd, understood by the swine, than a poet misunderstood by men.